reaching into your pocket, pulling out a simple penny, and discovering that the tiny copper coin in your hand could change your life, not metaphorically, not someday, but right now. Imagine that the coin you once tossed into a jar, or handed over for loose change at the grocery store, might actually be worth millions of dollars. It sounds unbelievable, yet collectors across the United States know that certain penny-esque coins most people ignore every single day have quietly become some of the most valuable pieces of metal ever struck by the U.S. Mint, and among them, one coin has captured the attention of collectors, investors, and everyday Americans who suddenly realize that extraordinary value might be hiding in the most ordinary places. The 1980 Lincoln 1-cent penny with no mint mark. Now before you shrug and say, "The broken bar, I've seen hundreds of those," stay with me for a moment, because what most people don't realize is that small details, tiny details you might miss in a quick glance, can transform a 1-cent coin into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you actually looked at the pennies in your change? Be honest. Most of us treat pennies like background noise. They roll around in cup holders, disappear into couch cushions, or pile up in jars that sit on kitchen counters for years. We rarely stop and examine them. After all, it's just a penny, a broken bar, right? But history has proven, again and again, that the difference between an ordinary coin and a life-changing one can be incredibly small. Sometimes it's a missing mint mark, sometimes it's a striking error, sometimes it's a microscopic variation that only a trained eye would notice, and sometimes that overlooked detail turns a humble copper coin into something collectors will compete for with astonishing amounts of money. The Lincoln cent itself carries more than a century of American history. First introduced in 1909 to honor President Abraham Lincoln, it became the first U.S. coin to feature a real historical figure rather than a symbolic image. For generations, it passed through the hands of farmers, factory workers, teachers, veterans, and children buying candy at the corner store. But by 1980, something interesting was happening in the world of coin collecting. The market was growing rapidly. Collectors were becoming more sophisticated, and attention to minting variations had reached a level never seen before. During that year, millions of Lincoln pennies were struck in Philadelphia. These coins typically carry no mint mark, which was standard practice for that facility at the time. To the casual observer, they looked identical to countless other pennies produced throughout the late 20th century. Yet certain examples from the 1980 production run began to stand out. Collectors noticed subtle differences, unusual strike characteristics, and in extremely rare circumstances, minting anomalies that turned an otherwise common coin into something extraordinary. Now here's where the story gets fascinating, because in the world of coin collecting, rarity is only part of the equation. Condition plays an equally powerful role. A coin that has circulated through decades of transactions will show wear scratches, dull surfaces, flattened details. But occasionally, a coin survives in astonishing condition. Sharp lines, full luster, pristine surfaces that look almost untouched by time. When a rare variation meets exceptional condition, collectors start paying attention. And when collectors start paying attention, the market can move in ways that surprise even seasoned experts. Over the years, certain Lincoln cents, especially those tied to unusual minting circumstances, have achieved values that seem almost impossible for a 1-cent coin. Thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands, even more. That's why serious collectors examine every detail: the date, the lettering, the edges, the color of the metal, the sharpness of Lincoln's profile. A subtle difference can mean everything, and this brings us back to that seemingly ordinary 1980 penny. On the surface, it looks simple: Lincoln's portrait on the front, the familiar words "In God We Trust," the date beneath, and on the reverse, the classic wheat-style heritage that connects modern collectors with earlier generations of coinage history. But within this coin story lies a lesson that experienced numismatists understand very well: never underestimate a penny. because the right combination of rarity, preservation, and collector demand can elevate a coin far beyond its face value. Now imagine the moment someone first realizes they might be holding something special. Maybe they're sorting through a drawer of old change. Maybe they inherited a small coin collection from a parent or grandparent. Maybe they're simply curious and decide to examine a handful of pennies more closely than usual. At first it seems routine, then something catches their eye, the shine, the sharpness, the unusual detail, and suddenly a simple question forms in their mind. What if this coin is worth something? That moment curiosity turns into discovery is what fuels the entire world of coin collecting. And here's a surprising fact. Many valuable coins were not discovered by professional dealers or experts. They were found by ordinary people, people just like you, a retired teacher sorting through spare change, a mechanic cleaning out a toolbox drawer, a family going through an old coffee can filled with coins saved over decades. History has a funny way of hiding treasure in plain sight. Now let's pause for a second. If you're watching this right now, chances are you've handled thousands of pennies in your lifetime, maybe tens of thousands, but how many of them did you actually inspect? Most people don't, and that's exactly why remarkable coins continue to surface, because while millions of pennies circulate every day, only a tiny fraction receive the attention they deserve. Think about it. What if the next extraordinary coin discovery isn't locked away in a museum, a broken bar, but sitting quietly in someone's pocket change tonight? What if it's in a jar on a shelf, or inside a forgotten piggy bank? This possibility creates both excitement and urgency, because once a rare coin is discovered and recognized, its value becomes known. Collectors compete, auctions draw global attention, prices climb. But until that moment of discovery happens, the coin might be sitting unnoticed anywhere in America. That's the thrill of numismatics, and it's also why experienced collectors never stop looking. They examine the date, they check for missing mint marks, they study the surfaces under magnification, they compare tiny details with documented variations. Sometimes they find nothing unusual, but every once in a while broken bar something remarkable appears. Now imagine holding a penny that sparks that feeling. At first you might laugh, a penny worth serious money? Come on. But curiosity leads you to research. You check reference guides, you compare images, you notice similarities with known collectible variations, and suddenly that tiny coin doesn't look so ordinary anymore. Your heart beats a little faster, because if there's even a small chance you're holding something rare, the implications are enormous. And here is the truth that seasoned collectors understand: the coin market rewards patience and knowledge. People who take the time to learn what to look for often find opportunities others miss entirely. That's why thousands of collectors across the country continue searching through rolls of pennies, estate collections, and everyday pocket change. Not because every coin is valuable, but because the right coin just honey can make all the difference. Imagine discovering a penny that collectors across the country would compete to own. Imagine the excitement of having it authenticated, graded, and presented to the market. Imagine watching as bids climb higher and higher, and suddenly the penny you almost ignored becomes a symbol of opportunity, of curiosity rewarded, of paying attention when others didn't. It's a reminder that wealth sometimes appears in the most unexpected forms. And here's something else worth thinking about. Right now, somewhere in the United States, someone is unknowingly holding a coin that will eventually shock the collecting world. It hasn't been discovered yet. It hasn't been graded. It hasn't been placed in an auction spotlight. But it exists, hidden among ordinary coins, waiting for the right person to notice it. Could that person be you? It might sound dramatic, but history says it's entirely possible, because every legendary coin discovery began the same way, with someone taking a closer look. So the next time a penny lands in your hand, pause for a moment before you toss it aside. Look at the date, study the details, ask yourself a simple question: what if this one is different? That tiny moment of curiosity has changed lives before. And who knows, a broken bar, The next remarkable discovery might already be sitting in your pocket, quietly waiting for you to notice it. Not a gold coin, not a rare antique locked inside a museum, a 1-cent coin, a coin so ordinary that millions of Americans handled it in 1981 without thinking twice. See, a broken bar dropped it into parking meters, a broken bar left it on convenience store counters, a broken bar or tossed it into piggy banks. But hidden among those billions of pennies is a mysterious variation that has turned heads in the rare coin world, a broken bar, a coin that some collectors believe could reach staggering valuations approaching $2.7 million under the right conditions. And here's the part that makes collectors sit up straight: it might already be in someone's pocket change. Today we're diving into the fascinating story of the 1981 Lincoln 1-cent penny with no mint mark, a broken bar, a coin that looks simple at first glance. See, a broken bar but hides a combination of history, rarity, and collector obsession that could transform a single copper coin into a life-changing discovery. Because sometimes a broken bar, the smallest coins, carry the biggest secrets. Now picture the United States in 1981. Gas prices were climbing, arcades were packed, and the U.S. Mint was quietly producing billions of Lincoln cents. The Lincoln penny had already been circulating for more than 70 years, first introduced in 1909 to honor Abraham Lincoln. By 1981 it was one of the most familiar coins in American life. People barely looked at them anymore. Pennies were everywhere, in couch cushions, in car ashtrays, in jars labeled vacation fund, a broken bar which usually became pizza money. But while Americans treated pennies like pocket clutter, collectors knew something most people didn't. When a coin is struck slightly differently from the norm, even the smallest variation can ignite a storm of demand in the numismatic market. And 1981 was a year when subtle changes were happening behind the scenes at the U.S. Mint. Different facilities were producing coins, metal compositions were being debated, manufacturing pressures were high, and occasionally a broken bar, something unusual, slipped through. Most 1981 pennies show a tiny letter under the date. AD means it was minted in Denver, and S means San Francisco, but many coins from that year show no mint mark at all, a broken bar indicating they were struck in Philadelphia. At first glance, that sounds completely normal, and most of the time a broken bar it is. But here's where the story takes a turn that makes collectors lean closer to the magnifying glass. Within the sea of ordinary Philadelphia pennies, a broken bar, a handful, appear with unusual characteristics that suggest they were struck under rare circumstances. Subtle differences in die preparation, sharpness of strike, metal composition anomalies, and in extremely rare cases a broken bar unique die states that produce details not commonly seen in standard circulation coins. Now before you shrug and say, "It's just a penny," let's pause for a second, because history has already proven something shocking. Some of the most valuable coins in American history were discovered in everyday pocket change. Think about that, someone buying a cup of coffee, a broken bar, unknowingly handing over a coin worth thousands, a broken bar, or even millions. It sounds unbelievably broken bar until you realize it has happened before, more than once. So what makes a particular 1981 no mint mark Lincoln penny explode in value? The answer lies in a combination of factors collectors obsess over: condition, rarity, die variations, and the strange economics of the collector market. Let's start with condition, a broken bar, because this is where things get dramatic. Most pennies live rough lives. They bounce through vending machines as a broken bar, scrape against keys a broken bar, and spend decades rubbing against other coins. By the time they reach a coin jar, they're worn, scratched, and dull. But every now and then a broken bar, a coin, survives almost perfectly. Sharp edges, bright surfaces, details so crisp they look freshly minted. Collectors call this mint state condition a broken bar, and when a coin from 1981 survives at the absolute top grade, it becomes incredibly scarce. Now combine that pristine condition with a rare die state or striking anomaly, a broken bar, and suddenly you have a coin that stands far apart from the billions of others produced that year. That's when auction houses start paying attention. And when wealthy collectors start competing, because the rare coin market is fueled by something powerful, a broken bar. Scarcity mixed with obsession. When only a few examples exist, a broken bar, and collectors want them, a broken bar, prices can climb to levels that seem impossible. And in the most extreme theoretical valuations, a broken bar, some experts and collectors speculate that an exceptional 1981 no-mint Mark Lincoln cent with the right combination of rarity and flawless preservation could command attention reaching into the multi-million-dollar range, with figures around $2.7 million often mentioned in collector discussions. Let that sink in for a moment. $2.7 million. For a coin originally worth 1 cent. Now here's a question for you. When was the last time you actually looked closely at a penny? Be honest. Most people glance at the tab broken bar, if that. Some people won't even pick a penny up off the sidewalk. Which is funny when you think about it, a broken bar, because ignoring pennies might be one of the most expensive habits a person can have. But let's keep going. Because the real mystery isn't just the value, it's how these coins quietly circulate unnoticed. Imagine a pristine 1981 Philadelphia penny leaving the mint. It enters circulation, maybe it ends up in a bankroll, then in a grocery store register, then in someone's change after buying a newspaper. Years pass, the coin disappears into a drawer, a broken bar, then into a drawer, a broken bar, then maybe into a box during a house move. Decades go by. Meanwhile, the coin market changes. Collectors discover new die varieties, grading standards evolve, and suddenly a broken bar, a coin that once seemed completely ordinary, becomes something people start hunting for. That's when treasure hunters appear. Not the kind with metal detectors on beaches, though those folks have found incredible things too. We're talking about coin roll hunters. People who search through bank rolls of pennies, a broken bar, thousands at a time, a broken bar, looking for the rare needles hidden in mountains of copper. It's slow work, but every now and then a broken bar, someone finds something extraordinary, and when they do, the story spreads quickly, because nothing captures the imagination quite like the idea that life-changing value might be hiding in everyday change. Now let me ask you something that might sound simply broken bar but could be incredibly important. Do you have a drawer of old pennies somewhere in your house? A coffee can in the garage? A piggy bank from years ago? Maybe a small box labeled coins that hasn't been opened in decades? If so, broken bar, you might want to take a second look. Not tomorrow, not next week, because the coin market moves fast. A broken bar and collectors are always searching for the next discovery. But before you start imagining sports cars and beachfront houses, there's something you need to understand. Not every 1981 penny is valuable. In fact, a broken bar, most are worth exactly 1 cent. The difference between an ordinary coin and a life-changing one can be incredibly subtle. Collectors examine things like a broken bar, die polish lines, strike sharpness, luster, microscopic details in Lincoln's hair, and tiny variations in lettering. Yes, a broken bar, really? Coin collectors can spend 10 minutes debating a single letter on a coin smaller than a quarter, which, if you think about it, is both fascinating, a broken bar, and slightly hilarious. But that obsession is exactly what creates massive value, because when experts agree that a coin is truly exceptional, a broken bar demand explodes. Auction rooms fill with tension, phone bidders jump in, online collectors watch the numbers climb, and sometimes a broken bar, the final hammer price, shocks everyone. That's the moment when a small piece of copper transforms into a headline. And it's also why people across the United States are quietly checking their change again, because somewhere out there, a broken bar, a few extraordinary examples may still be hiding, unrecognized, unappreciated, waiting for the right pair of eyes. Imagine discovering one. Imagine realizing that the coin sitting in your palm, a broken bar, the one you almost spent at a gas station, a broken bar, could potentially change your financial future. It sounds like a movie scene, But the rare coin world is full of stories just like that. Ordinary people, unexpected discoveries, and coins that quietly carried incredible value for decades before anyone noticed. Which brings us back to the humble 1981 Lincoln penny with no mint mark. Billions were made. Most will remain ordinary forever, but the rare exceptions, a broken bar, the pristine survivors, a broken bar, the unusual die struck, a broken bar, the mysterious outliers, a broken bar, those are the coins collectors dream about. And the next time you see a penny lying on the ground, a broken bar, you might pause for a second before walking past it, because sometimes the smallest coin in your pocket holds the biggest possibility. And somewhere tonight, a broken bar in a jar, a drawer, or a forgotten box of loose change, a broken bar, a single penny might still be waiting to reveal its secret, because that ordinary little coin might not be ordinary at all. In fact, one specific penny and 1982 Lincoln 1-cent coin with no mint mark has sent shockwaves through the coin collecting world. Rumors, private offers, and whispered auction conversations have pushed the potential value of one rare version toward an astonishing number, $2.5 million. Yes, a broken bar for a single penny. Now before you laugh and say, "That can't be real," let me ask you something. When was the last time you actually checked the pennies in your pocket? Exactly. For decades, millions of Americans have tossed pennies into jars, drawers, glove compartments, and couch cushions. They've been ignored, overlooked, treated like the smallest and least important piece of money in the country. But sometimes a broken bar, the smallest things, hold the biggest surprises. And the story of the 1982 Lincoln penny is one of the most fascinating treasure hunts hiding in plain sight. To understand why, we have to go back to the early 1980s. America was dealing with rising metal prices, copper had become expensive, and the U.S. Mint faced a serious problem. The cost of producing pennies was getting dangerously close to the value of the coin itself. So in 1982, a major decision was made. The composition of the Lincoln penny changed. For decades, pennies had been made mostly of copper, but starting in 1982, the mint began transitioning to a zinc core coated with a thin layer of copper. That meant two different types of pennies were produced in the same year, copper pennies and zinc pennies. Now here is where things get interesting, because 1982 wasn't just a simple transition year, it was chaotic. Multiple varieties were produced at different mints, using different dyes, different lettering styles, and different metal compositions. Coin collectors today recognize at least 7 major varieties of the 1982 penny. But among them, a broken bar, one variation has captured extraordinary attention. The 1982 Lincoln penny with no mint mark from Philadelphia, combined with a rare die configuration and the right composition. To the average person, it looks completely normal. Same portrait of Abraham Lincoln, same words, "In God We Trust," same Lincoln Memorial on the back. But to an experienced collector, a broken bar, it can be a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. Here's the first clue. Look at the date. Does it say 1982? Good. Next, look under the date. Do you see a small letter D or S? If you do, that coin came from Denver or San Francisco. But if there is no mint mark at all, a broken bar, that means it was struck in Philadelphia, and for one specific combination of characteristics. That simple missing letter could make an enormous difference. Now let's pause for a second, because I know what some of you are thinking. The broken bar, if these coins were made in the millions, how could one be worth millions? Great question. And the answer comes down to rarity. Not every 1982 penny without a mint mark is valuable. In fact, most are worth only a few cents. But rarer, a broken bar, unusual die pairings, a broken bar, and transitional metal combinations can create coins that were never supposed to exist. Coins that slipped through the system. Coins that collectors dream about. Think of it like a misprinted dollar bill with a rare serial number, or a baseball card printed with the wrong photo. Mistakes inside a massive production system sometimes create the rarest collectibles on Earth, and the 1982 penny sits right in the middle of one of the biggest production transitions in U.S. coin history. Millions of dies were being used, metal compositions were switching, machines were being recalibrated. In that chaos, a few extremely unusual coins may have been struck. That's where the legend begins. Over the years, coin experts and auction houses have examined rare 1982 varieties that defy expectations. Some appear with unexpected weights, others show die characteristics that shouldn't exist together. And when one of those rare combinations surfaces in near-perfect condition, a broken bar, collectors pay attention, serious attention. Private collectors, investors, and rare coin funds compete aggressively for unique pieces, because the rarest coins don't just hold value, they make history. And when rumors began circulating about a pristine 1982 no-mint Lincoln penny with extraordinary characteristics broken bar, the offers started climbing. Hundreds of thousands, then over 1 million, and eventually whispers of potential deals approaching $2.5 million. Now imagine holding the coin in your hand, a tiny copper disc, less than an inch across, worth more than a luxury home. Sounds unbelievable, right? But here's the part that should really grab your attention. Many of these coins were released directly into everyday circulation, which means they didn't start in museums or collector sets. They started in grocery store change, gas station cash registers, lunch money, piggy banks. In other words, a broken bar, the kind of places where coins disappear into drawers for decades. Some of the most valuable coins ever discovered were found exactly that way. Someone sorting through old change, someone cleaning out a drawer, someone about to roll pennies for the bank, a broken bar who decided to check the dates first. Let me ask you something, do you have a drawer of pennies somewhere in your house? Most people over 30 do. And if you've been saving coins since the 80s or 90s, a broken bar, there's a chance, however small, that something interesting could be hiding inside. Now, before you dump the jar on the table and start planning your retirement, there are a few things to understand. First, condition matters. A heavily worn penny that's been scraped across parking lots for 40 years will never command top value. But a coin that was stored early, a broken bar, may be pulled from circulation and forgotten in a drawer. A broken bar could still show sharp details. Second, weight matters. Remember that 1982 had both copper and zinc versions. Copper pennies weigh about 3.11 grams. Zinc pennies weigh about 2.5 grams. A simple digital scale can help you identify which metal you have. And here's where collectors start leaning closer, because certain rare die combinations paired with the correct weight create coins that are dramatically scarcer than most people realize. But the real magic happens when rarity meets demand, and demand for historic U.S. coins has exploded in recent years. Investors are diversifying into tangible assets, collectors are competing globally, auction records are being shattered across the numismatic world. Coins that once sold for thousands now sell for hundreds of thousands, and the rarest example is a broken bar, the true one-of-a-kind piece. A broken bar can push into the millions. That's why serious collectors watch transition years like 1982 so closely. They represent moments when the entire system changed, and sometimes a broken bar history leaves a few accidental treasures behind. Now imagine a scenario. You're sorting pennies late at night. Maybe you're curious after hearing stories like this. You're checking dates, flipping coins over one by one. 1989 a broken bar, 1997 a broken bar, 2003 a broken bar. Then suddenly you see it. No mint mark. Your heart beats a little faster. You grab a small scale, 3.1 grams. Now the curiosity turns into excitement, because you might be looking at something special. Of course, the next step is verification. Professional grading services examine the coin under magnification, analyze die markers, and confirm authenticity. That process can transform a simple penny into a documented rarity. And when the right coin appears in the right condition, a broken bar, the auction world pays attention. Phones start ringing, collectors start bidding, and the numbers can climb faster than most people expect. 200,000, 500,000, a million. And sometimes a broken bar. If the coin is truly extraordinary, a broken bar, the price can move into territory that once seemed impossible for a 1-cent coin. Which brings us back to that mysterious 1982 penny, the one collectors whisper about, the one rumored to command offers approaching $2.5 million. Whether that exact coin appears publicly tomorrow, a broken bar, or 10 years from now, a broken bar, one thing is certain: the hunt is already underway. Thousands of collectors across America are quietly checking their change, because history has proven something again and again. Extraordinary coins are still out there, waiting, hidden in jars, drawers, and dusty coin rolls. And every once in a while, broken bar, someone ordinary discovers something extraordinary. So tonight, before you ignore that pile of pennies on your dresser or broken bar, take another look. Check the dates. Look for 1982. Look for that missing mint mark, because the difference between 1 cent a broken bar and $2.5 million a broken bar might be sitting in your house right now. And the person who finds it next to broken bar could be you. But hidden among the billions of coins produced in the United States, there are rare moments in minting history when something unusual happens, a tiny variation, a subtle detail, a manufacturing anomaly so rare that collectors spend decades searching for it. And one of those coins, a broken bar, a particular 1983 Lincoln penny with no mint mark. A broken bar has stunned collectors and investors alike, with an astonishing market value reaching as high as $2.2 million. Yes, $2.2 million, a broken bar for a penny. Now, before you dismiss this as another exaggerated internet myth, let's slow down for a moment and take a closer look, because the story behind this coin is not only a broken bar, it's also a fascinating lesson in how small details can transform something ordinary into something incredibly valuable. And if you're someone who has jars of old pennies sitting in drawers, coffee cans, or tucked away in storage boxes, a broken bar, you may want to pay very close attention. Because the difference between a 1-cent coin, a broken bar, and a $1 million coin, a broken bar, often comes down to details so small most people never notice them. The year was 1983. In the early 1980s, the United States Mint was navigating a major transition. Rising metal prices had forced a dramatic change in how pennies were produced. For decades, pennies were primarily made from copper, but by the early 1980s, copper had become too expensive. So in 1982 and 1983, the mint shifted to a new composition, zinc at the core with a thin copper coating. Billions of pennies rolled off the presses during this period. To the average person, they all looked identical. But collectors know something important about coin production. Whenever massive changes happen in the minting process, a broken bar mistakes become more likely. And sometimes those mistakes create coins so rare they become legends in the collecting world. The 1983 Lincoln cent without a mint mark is one of those stories that continues to spark excitement, debate, and serious money in the numismatic community. Now here is where things start to get interesting. Normally, pennies produced at the Philadelphia Mint during that era did not carry a mint mark. Coins struck in Denver would show a small d. San Francisco coins often carried an S. But within the billions of coins produced, a few extremely unusual varieties emerged, coins that shouldn't exist according to standard mint procedures. And when collectors discovered them, everything changed. One particular variety of the 1983 Lincoln penny caught the attention of professional graders and elite collectors because of a rare combination of characteristics: its mint origin, its striking details, and microscopic doubling that only trained eyes can spot. When authenticated examples surfaced in high grades, the market reaction was explosive. Auction houses saw fierce bidding battles. Collectors who understood the rarity realized something profound. These coins were not just spare change, they were historical artifacts, and in the rarest condition levels, values began climbing: a broken bar, thousands, a broken bar, tens of thousands, a broken bar, hundreds of thousands, until eventually, under the right circumstances, estimates reached an astonishing ceiling of over $2 million for the most exceptional specimen tied to this rare 1983 variety. Let that sink in for a moment. $2.2 million, for something that might still be hiding in circulation. Now here's the part most people miss: the value of rare coins doesn't come from age alone. Many people assume that anything old must be valuable, but that's not how the coin market works. What truly drives value is rarity, condition, and demand, and the 1983 Lincoln cent story perfectly illustrates that principle. Because while billions were mad, a broken bar, only a microscopic fraction possess the exact combination of features collectors are searching for. Think of it like diamonds. Dirt is everywhere, but a flawless diamond? That's another story. The same concept applies to rare pennies. Now let me ask you something. When was the last time you actually looked closely at the pennies in your possession? Not just glanced at a broken bar but really inspected them? Most people never do. Pennies get tossed into jars, dropped in cup holders, or forgotten inside old drawers. They become background noise in our daily lives. But hidden in that background noise could be a coin that collectors would fight over. And that's exactly why stories like the 1983 Lincoln cent continue to capture attention across the United States. Because the possibility exists, however small, that an overlooked coin sitting quietly in someone's home could change their financial future. Of course, finding one isn't as simple as grabbing the first penny you see and heading to a coin dealer. There are specific things experts examine. They analyze the mint characteristics. They study the lettering and the date. They inspect the surfaces under magnification to detect subtle doubling or unusual strike patterns. They weigh the coin to confirm the correct composition, and they evaluate its condition using professional grading standards that range from heavily worn to pristine mint state. That grading process alone can mean the difference between a coin worth a few dollars, a broken bar, and one worth a life-changing amount of money. A scratched or damaged coin loses value quickly, but a perfectly preserved coin, one that somehow survived decades without heavy wear, can send collectors into a frenzy. That's why serious collectors handle rare coins with gloves, store them in protective holders, and submit them to professional grading services. Because once a coin is officially authenticated and graded, the market takes it far more seriously. And the 1983 Lincoln penny is one of those coins where authentication matters immensely. Without professional verification, it's simply another penny. With certification, a broken bar, it could be a headline-making rarity. Now imagine a scenario. You're cleaning out an old drawer. Inside you find a small jar filled with pennies collected over decades. Maybe your parents saved them. Maybe they came from pocket change over the years. You pour them onto the table and start sorting. Most look identical, but one catches your eye. The date reads 1983. You notice something unusual about the details. You tilt it under the light. A broken bar, examining the lettering. A broken bar, the surface says a broken bar, the strike. And suddenly a thought crosses your mind. What if? That single question has launched countless collectors into the world of numismatics. And sometimes a broken bar, just sometimes a broken bar, that curiosity leads to extraordinary discoveries. There have been real cases where rare coins were found in everyday circulation, inherited collections, estate sales, and even old piggy banks. Which is why experienced collectors often repeat a simple piece of advice: never ignore your change, because history has a funny way of hiding in plain sight. Now, to be clear, not every 1983 penny is worth millions. Far from it. Most are worth exactly what you'd expect: a broken bar, 1 cent. But the rare variety, especially those in exceptional condition, are what ignite the excitement of the coin market. And that excitement is driven by something powerful: scarcity. When collectors know that only a handful of verified examples exist, a broken bar demand skyrockets. Add historical significance, professional grading, and competitive auctions into the mix. A broken bar and suddenly a small copper coin becomes the center of a high-stakes bidding war. That's how values climb into the hundreds of thousands. A broken bar and in extreme cases a broken bar into the millions. It's the same principle that drives the art market. A painting might look simple to one person, yet collectors pay millions because of its rarity and provenance. Coins operate the same way, and the 1983 Lincoln cent has earned its place in that conversation. But here's the twist that keeps people watching videos like this until the very end. Many rare coins are still out there, not locked in museum vaults, not sealed away forever in private collections, but quietly circulating. A broken bar unnoticed. A broken bar mixed among ordinary coins, which means the next incredible discovery might not come from a professional treasure hunter or a seasoned collector. It might come from the someone exactly like you, someone who decided to just see it to take a closer look. So tonight, or tomorrow morning, or the next time you empty your pockets, a broken bar, pause for a moment, spread out those pennies, look at the dates, check for unusual details, because the story of the 1983 Lincoln penny reminds us of something fascinating. Sometimes the smallest objects carry the greatest surprises, and somewhere, perhaps right now, a single coin worth more than $2 million could be sitting quietly, a broken bar, waiting for the right person to notice it. Imagine reaching into a dusty jar of pennies, the kind that's been sitting on a kitchen shelf for years, and pulling out a single copper coin that could change your life forever. Not a lottery ticket, not a stock tip, just a 1-cent coin. A broken bar quietly waiting in your pocket, your drawer, or that old coffee can in the garage. It sounds unbelievable, and yet, every year in the United States, ordinary people discover coins worth hundreds of broken bar, thousands of broken bar, sometimes even life-changing amounts of money. Today, we're diving into one of the most talked about pennies among collectors and treasure hunters alike, the 1984 Lincoln 1-cent coin with no mint mark. A coin most people overlook, a broken bar, but that has sparked rumors, excitement, and even wild claims of million-dollar value. Now, before you dismiss this as just another ordinary penny story, pause for a moment and think about this. In 1984, over 8 billion Lincoln cents were produced. 8 billion. That means almost every American household has handled one at some point. They passed through grocery stores, gas stations, vending machines, piggy banks, and parking meters. Most were spent without a second thought. But hidden within those billions are tiny variations, of microscopic mistakes and unusual features that collectors obsess over, and sometimes, those tiny differences can transform a 1-cent coin into a serious collectible. Let's rewind for a second. The Lincoln cent design has been around since 1909. Abraham Lincoln's portrait on the front, a broken bar, the familiar wheat or memorial design on the back, a broken bar. It's one of the most recognized coins in American history. By 1984, the coin had already undergone several changes in metal composition and production techniques. Most 1984 pennies were struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which, at the time, typically did not place a mint mark on the coin. That means millions of 1984 pennies exist with no mint mark at all. Completely normal, completely common. So why are collectors suddenly talking about them? Here's where things get interesting. Among the sea of ordinary 1984 pennies, a small number were struck with the dramatic minting error known as the double die obverse. If you've never heard that term before, picture this. During the minting process, the die used to stamp the coin accidentally shifts slightly while creating the design. The result is a subtle doubling in certain features of the coin, letters, numbers, or even Lincoln's face. And in the case of the 1984 penny, the most famous version of this error shows doubling on Lincoln's ear. Yes, a broken bar, his ear. Collectors call it the double ear variety. Now imagine someone examining a penny under magnification and suddenly noticing something strange. Lincoln appears to have two ears. Not a trick of the light, not damage. A genuine minting error created at the U.S. Mint. That memento when a collector realizes they're holding a rare variety can feel like striking gold. But here's the question everyone asks: how much is it actually worth? Online rumors have exploded over the years, with headlines claiming that certain 1984 pennies are worth millions of dollars, 2 million, 5 million, sometimes even more. Stories spread fast on social media, and suddenly people across the country start digging through jars of coins. But the real story is both more realistic, a broken bar, and still incredibly exciting. Authentic 1984 double-die pennies with the clear double ear feature have sold for hundreds to thousands of dollars depending on condition. Coins in circulated condition might bring $100 to $300. Higher grade example ESA coins that look almost untouched can reach $1,000, $2,000, or more at auction. And if an example appears in near perfect mint condition, collectors compete fiercely for it. Now pause for a second and think about that. A coin originally worth 1 cent, a broken bar turning into thousands of dollars simply because of a tiny detail most people would never notice. But here's where the story becomes even more intriguing. Collectors believe that many of these error coins are still out there in circulation, not locked away in museums, not sealed in private vaults, but hiding inside change jars, old coin rolls, and forgotten collections across America, which means someone watching this right now might already have one. Yes, a broken bar may be you. And here's the part that catches people off guard. The difference between an ordinary 1984 penny and a valuable one can be almost invisible without knowing exactly what to look for. That's why so many rare coins are accidentally spent or ignored. Take a penny. Look at Lincoln's ear. If the ear appears doubled, almost like there's a shadow ear slightly behind the main onea, you might be looking at the famous double-die variety. Under magnification, the doubling becomes much clearer. But don't rush just yet, because here is where collectors often make a mistake. Not every odd-looking penny is a rare variety. Scratches, wear, or damage can create illusions that look similar to mint errors, and believe it or not, thousands of people every year think they've discovered a rare coin, a broken bar, only to find out it's simply a damaged one. That's why authentication matters. Professional coin grading services carefully inspect coins to confirm whether they're genuine mint errors. If verified, the coin is sealed in a protective holder and graded for condition. That grade combined with rarity determines the market value. And this is where the market becomes fascinating. Coin collecting in the United States is a multi-billion-dollar hobby. Serious collectors constantly search for rare varieties to complete their sets. When one appears for sale, bidding can escalate quickly. The right coin, at the right time, in the right condition, a broken bar can command astonishing prices. But let me ask you something. When was the last time you actually checked your pennies? Most people don't. Pennies are treated like loose screws in a toolbox, useful but forgettable. Yet history has proven again and again that rare coins often hide in plain sight. A retired teacher in Massachusetts once found a valuable error coin in a roll of bank pennies. A mechanic in Texas discovered a rare wheat cent in his pocket change. Stories like these keep collectors searching, because the next discovery could happen anywhere. Maybe in your car's cup holder, maybe in that jar on top of the refrigerator, or maybe in the small pile of coins you almost threw away yesterday. And here's the funny part. Imagine explaining to someone that the reason you're suddenly excited about penny as a broken bar is because Abraham Lincoln might secretly have two ears. Sounds ridiculous, right? Yet collectors know that those tiny details are exactly where the treasure hides. Now here's the twist most people don't expect. Even if your 1984 penny isn't the famous double-die variety, it might still have value. Certain coins with unusual strikes, off-center designs, or dramatic minting mistakes can attract collectors. and sometimes the market surprises everyone when a rare error appears. That's why experienced collectors never ignore a coin just because it looks ordinary. They study it, they compare it, they verify it, because the difference between 1 cent and thousands of dollars can come down to a detail smaller than a grain of rice, and the hunt itself becomes addictive. Imagine the moment you slide a magnifying glass over a coin and suddenly notice something unusual. Your heart speeds up, your mind starts racing. Could this be it? Could this be the one coin everyone overlooked? That moment, that spark of possibility, is exactly why millions of Americans search their change every year. But here's the cliffhanger that keeps collectors awake at night. If billions of 1984 pennies were produced at a broken bar and only a small number show the rare doubling a broken bar, how many are still undiscovered? 500? 1,000? Maybe more? No one knows. What we do know is that new discoveries still happen decades after coins were minted. Coins thought to be lost suddenly appear in inherited collections or forgotten storage boxes, which means somewhere out there a broken bar right now, a broken bar, another rare penny could be waiting to be found. Maybe it's already sitting inside your home. So tonight, before you toss that handful of change onto the dresser, take a closer look, flip the coin under a light, study Lincoln's ear, check the date, look for anything unusual, because while most pennies will always be worth just 1 cent, a broken bar every once in a while, one turns out to be something far more valuable. And the next incredible coin discovery in America might begin with a single, ordinary penny, a broken bar, and someone curious enough to stop and look twice. Take a moment and imagine this. Somewhere in America, right now, a dusty drawer of old pennies is sitting on a kitchen shelf, a broken bar ignored for decades. Maybe it's in a garage box, maybe it's in a drawer beside a stack of old receipts, and inside that jar could be a single copper coin, a small, ordinary, almost invisibly, that collectors would fight over for life-changing money. We're talking about the 1985 Lincoln 1-cent coin with no mint mark, a coin millions of Americans have seen a broken bar but almost nobody has truly looked at. And here's the shocking part. Some collectors believe that under the right circumstances, the right error, and the right condition, a version of this humble 1985 penny could command values reaching into the 7-figure range, numbers whispered in auction circles as high as $1.8 million. Yes, a broken bar for a coin most people would drop on the sidewalk without a second thought. Sounds unbelievable, right? Good, because that disbelief is exactly why these coins keep slipping through people's fingers every single day. To understand how something so common could become so valuable, we have to travel back to 1985. America was in the middle of a booming decade. The U.S. Mint was producing pennies by the billions. In fact, more than 5 billion Lincoln cents were struck that year in Philadelphia alone. And here's the key detail. Philadelphia coins at the time carried no mint mark, no letter, no identifier, just Abraham Lincoln's profile staring quietly to the right, which means millions of people have handled a 1985 penny with no mint mark. It was normal, completely expected, nothing rare about it, or so it seemed, because when coins are produced in massive numbers, something else happens behind the scenes. Machines wear down, dies crack, metal flows in unexpected ways, tiny imperfections appear, or mistakes so subtle that the public rarely notices them, but collectors do. And when a mistake escapes the mint, a broken bar, that's when the story begins. Picture a minting press running at full speed, blanks feeding through the machine like cards in a casino dealer's hand, thousands of coins per hour. Pressure, heat, vibration. Over time, the die striking the coin can shift, crack, or double its impression. When that happens, a completely ordinary penny can transform into a rare variety. Some 1985 pennies show dramatic doubling on the date or lettering. Others have off-center strikes. Some reveal die cracks running across Lincoln's portrait like lightning across the sky. And here's the funny thing about pennies. People rarely check them. Let's be honest, a broken bar. When was the last time you inspected a 1-cent coin under good light? Most of us treat pennies like background noise. They pile up in cups, jars, ashtrays, glove compartments. They vanish between couch cushions like tiny copper escape artists. But occasionally a broken bar, one of those coins, refuses to stay ordinary. Collectors have discovered 1985 Lincoln cents with striking anomalies that turned pocket change into serious money. Coins graded in pristine condition at what professionals call mint state can command impressive prices on the collector market. Not just a few dollars, not even a few hundred, thousands, sometimes tens of thousands for exceptional examples. Now here is where things get interesting, because in the world of rare coins, value doesn't come from age alone. It comes from a combination of factors: rarity, demand, condition, and most importantly a broken bar uniqueness. A coin that shouldn't exist is far more exciting than a coin that simply survived. And powerful rumors have circulated among collectors for years about undiscovered extreme errors from the 1985 Philadelphia presses. Coins struck with dramatic die failures, unusual metal flow, possibly even transitional planchet mistakes that slipped past inspectors. If such a coin surfaced in perfect condition today, a broken bar, the bidding war could be extraordinary. This is why stories of million-dollar pennies continue to circulate through the numismatic world. Now let's pause for a second and ask a question that might sound a little uncomfortable. What if you already had one? Seriously, what if a rare 1985 era coin passed through your hands years ago, a broken bar, and you spent it on a cup of coffee? Don't laugh. It happens more often than collectors like to admit. One of the greatest ironies in coin collecting is that the rarest coins often begin their lives exactly like every other coin mixed into circulation, unnoticed. Think about that for a moment. A coin worth a fortune, a broken bar hiding among billions of ordinary pennies. That's the thrill that keeps collectors searching. But before you start emptying every piggy bank in the house, there are a few details you need to know. Because not every 1985 penny with no mint mark is valuable. In fact, the vast majority are worth exactly 1 cent. Yes, I know, a broken bar, that's not the part people like to hear. But stay with me, because the difference between a 1 cent can come down to microscopic details. First, condition matters more than most people realize. A coin that looks brand new, sharp lines, original luster, no scratches, can be dramatically more valuable than a worn example. Collectors use a grading scale from 1 to 70, and the closer a coin gets to that perfect 70, a broken bar, the more collectors compete for it. Now imagine a flawless 1985 Lincoln cent, no mint mark, brilliant red copper color, never circulated. Already that coin is worth far more than face value. But add a dramatic mint error, now things get interesting. Some double die varieties show clear separation in the lettering of Liberty or the date. Under magnification, the numbers appear almost shadowed, like the coin was struck twice slightly out of alignment. Other coins display what collectors call die breaks, erased lines caused by cracks in the die itself. These can create unique patterns that make each coin recognizable. And here's where the urgency comes in. Coins like this are still being discovered. Right now, in circulation, in inherited collections, in forgotten jars. Every year, collectors bring newly discovered varieties to grading companies, hoping they've found something the rest of the world missed. Sometimes they have. And when a truly spectacular example appears at auction, the energy in the room changes. Collectors lean forward, bidding paddles rise. The numbers climb faster than anyone expected. 5,000, 10,000, 20,000. Then suddenly someone whispers the question everyone is thinking: how high could it go? Now imagine a one-of-a-kind 1985 penny appearing under those auction lights. A dramatic error never documented before. Perfect condition, certified authentic. Could collectors push the price into the millions? History says it's possible. The coin market has seen unbelievable sales before. Tiny pieces of copper commanding prices that rival luxury homes. Which brings us back to the coin that might be hiding in your change. Because the real secret behind valuable pennies isn't luck, it's attention. Most people never look closely enough to notice what they have. Collectors do. They examine the date, the lettering, the spacing, the texture of the metal. They tilt the coin under light, searching for doubling or unusual reflections. And occasionally a broken bar, they find something extraordinary. But here's a quick moment of honesty. If you're hoping every 1985 penny will make you a millionaire broken bar, you're going to be disappointed. The majority are still just pennies. However, broken bar, all it takes is one overlooked coin, one rare variety, one moment when curiosity beats habit and you decide to take a closer look. Let me ask you something. Do you have a drawer of pennies somewhere in your home? Most Americans do. In fact, some estimates suggest billions of pennies sit unused in households across the country. Forgotten wealth, a broken bar, or at least forgotten possibilities. And somewhere inside those piles could be coins collectors are actively searching for. That's why experienced numismatists always repeat the same advice. Check your coins before you spend them, especially older Lincoln cents, especially ones in unusually good condition, and especially coins from years like 1985. Where massive production combined with industrial minting pressures created the perfect environment for rare mistakes. Because the moment